Hello everybody and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorials. This is Kyra and today I'm going to be showing you how I decorated my vintage grunge junk journal. I have several other tutorials for how I made the cover, the base, a flip through, all of that will be linked down in the description box if you haven't seen it already. And we will also be linking all of the kits used today down in the description box, so if there's something you're looking for, you'll find it there, including these lined pages that I printed out from our shop, just kind of a simple kit. They've got kind of like a off-white tone to them. And I'm going to be starting with this little slot pocket that we have in our add-on kit. And to begin, I'm just going to kind of lay it in one of the corners of my lined paper, and I'm sort of going to mark inside of the slots. I'm just trying to get kind of a rectangle here, and I'm going to trim it down until it fits into the slot like this. And you just want it to be kind of long enough that it sticks out the top but doesn't stick out the bottom. And we're going to be making 4 of those, each one just slightly shorter than the next, just like this. Alright, and once you have those, I'm going to be going over mine with some Distress ink in the color Vintage Photo, just to give them a little more contrast, a little more pop when they're layered on one another. And then I'm going to take some of these fussy cuts from the His Lordship's Manor fussy cut journal kit that we have in our shop. And I'm just going to take a couple that I like, and starting with the first tallest little note that I made, I'm going to add glue to the bottom half of the fussy cut and stick it in the top left corner, just like this. You want it kind of sticking off the paper a little bit because it's going to work kind of like a pull tab. And we're going to layer these in a way that they kind of make a staircase effect. So I'm going to start with my shortest piece and add another fussy cut to the far right corner. Same idea, kind of halfway sticking up off the top. Just like so. And once we've done that, we're going to take our other fussy cuts here, and we want to find kind of the center of our note card. And this piece we want to go slightly to the left of center. Just like this, not all the way to the corner. And then with the other piece again, slightly to the right, but not all the way to the corner. Okay? Same idea, add some glue just like this, and you can double check how they stack before you glue them down entirely. While they're still kind of wet, you can move them around. And once you kind of get that staircase effect, they're going to go into our slot just like this. And I only have 4 because if you have 5, they don't stack quite as nicely, so I'm going to skip that center slot and just go like this. And if you have a little extra sticking out the bottom, like this piece was a little too long, I'm just going to trim that off and add a little more Distress ink. And I'm going to save that scrap piece. I'll be using it later for some decorating. Alright, so taking the little slot pocket, we're going to add glue all along the edges and glue it down into one of our pages that we think it would look nice on. And then just go ahead and add each of your little note cards here. And there you go, you've got kind of like this cute little waterfall effect with these little note cards to write on. And I'm just going to go a little step further here, and I'm going to grab one of these book plates. We have a book plate kit, like a faux hardware kit in our shop I used for this. And then one of the journal words from the kit, and there you go. So when decorating this journal, the thought was kind of to go with like the theme of layers. I just wanted lots and lots of layers, but otherwise I was trying to keep the decorating kind of simple. So like one of the things I'm doing here is I'm taking sort of these like round pieces that come with the journal kit, and I'm just tucking them into those coffee dyed CD cases that we sewed into our signatures in the last video. And they're kind of like a perfect fit, so this was very satisfying. And then I just went ahead and kind of checked any of my envelopes that were like sort of blank and started just doing some basic decorating, like adding these little notebook pages that come with the kit. And you can also decorate, like add little extra things like these little page tabs here, or if you have journal words or anything like that, just to kind of continue layering. All of these little details are going to add up in the end and make it look really decorative. So, you know, book plates. If you have scraps are going to be a big part of my layering and decorating today. So I'm just shredding pieces of paper from this kit or other kits that I had. You might have seen me grab some of these scraps from my scrap pile in my last video. And I'm just kind of decorating things, and you can glue them down flat, or you could glue them down in a way that allows you to tuck things into them. I kept forgetting to do that, so, you know, just try to be mindful of what you want to do while you're decorating. And then I have some like faux leather scraps, some tags from some other kits that I made, and then I've got a bunch of the tags that come with these kits. So you don't have to use scraps. Our kits come with lots of extra ephemera, so you can just use what comes with the kit if you want. That's perfectly fine. And I'm just going to start filling up my envelopes with scraps, tags, cards, ephemera pieces. If you have like your own photos or like cut out pieces of newspaper clippings or book pages, you could add those in if you wanted to. Anything will do. And I try to layer things from largest to smallest so that you can see all of the details, so that's just something to keep in mind. And like I had this envelope that came with the kit. I didn't sew it in, but I am going to glue it onto the back of another envelope here. I'm making like a big sort of envelope flip kind of right in the center of my journal. And I'm just going to add a couple of cards into the envelope, and to keep it shut, I'm going to take one of these little, what do you call it? It's like a faux stamp that comes with the kit. And I'm just going to add a little glue to the bottom corners and glue it down to the bottom of the envelope. And that way the top of the envelope, like the flap, can just tuck down underneath that little stamp like this. And that'll hold the envelope closed. So a real simple closure there. And then I'm just going to keep decorating, you know, I take like a torn scrap just to, you know, make the envelopes look a little less plain. I'm just going to glue it down like this. And I have some ephemera pieces that I'm actually going to cut apart, like this one here. I'm going to grab just this little lined sheet and a scrap from one of my pretty papers of a different kit. And I'm just going to layer them like this. Again, you could leave like the top or sides open to tuck ephemera into, or just leave them plain. And, you know, I'm just cutting things apart, doing some extra decorating. I'm going to go in with some like ribbons here. I got like this woven ribbon and like an extra piece of string. I just tied like a little bow in the center to give it a little bit of detail. Nothing too fancy. And I had some of these envelope flaps. You could leave them loose in the journal, that's fine. I decided to go ahead and kind of glue them down, just one on top of the other like this. And then I'm going to be taking some wax and just creating like a little wax seal here just to make it a little bit more decorative. And we get our wax and our seals. You can get them either on Amazon or Etsy, or sometimes craft stores will have them. So you can just kind of look around and find ones that you like. This one kind of has like a little like plant emblem on it. And then while decorating, I did find it was helpful to have clips to just hold things out of the way, since the journal does start to get kind of thick here. And I'm going to take some of the cards and I'm going to punch like a little micro hole punch into it and add just a little bit of this thin twine, kind of making a loop in the back and then pulling the loose ends through just like this. And I'm going to trim this down, and the idea was just to have something to kind of grab the card and pull it out, since I'm putting it into this pocket where it's going to be a little bit deep, and I didn't want to have to struggle to like get down in there and pull the tag out, so this is more of a practical decoration. Alright, and then I'm going to take this like sort of pop-up pocket here, and I'm going to glue it down onto the back of one of my cards that I had sewed in. And taking like a scrap piece of ribbon, I'm just going to glue it in half like this. And then I'm going to glue it onto the back of an ephemera piece, this little like faux library card. And that's going to make like a little pull tab that you can use to pull the card out of the pocket. Just like this. And then just continue filling up any envelopes or little pockets that I had before with little ephemera pieces. Sometimes like our kits come with pockets, so like I'll just be gluing some of those down. Adding tags, like I'm going to use this jute cord to make like a little, again, like a little pull tab at the top. Some eyelets so that my paper doesn't tear. And then I'll trim things down because I don't want things sticking out of this journal. That is a look. If you want to go for like a messier look, you could do that. I'm just going to keep things simple. And like right here, I'm just gluing these down, but if I had thought about it, maybe I would have left like this top envelope portion open to tuck things into. I think that would be really neat, so that's something to try. And while layering, again, I try to focus on things that have a little bit of contrast. You don't want like all white papers on top of one another. If you have like a darker paper, that can be nice to just add a little bit of contrast against the light, and so on and so forth. And then for this little piece here, this is like a little coin envelope that comes with the kit. I'm just going to glue it down onto the back of one of my envelopes. Again, just kind of decorating things here. And I'm going to add like this little woven ribbon scrap piece. I'm just going to kind of glue it up to the top, and I'm going to add a bulb pin that I just kind of pin through the fabric like this. And then I have this little like sort of steampunk charm that I got. It's like a little clock or something like that, and I'm just going to add like a little ring and clip it onto my bulb pin like this, so I just have like a little swinging charm. Right, nothing too crazy, just a little bit of extra movement. And you want to be careful with things like this. Sometimes they can make your journal get bulkier if you add too many, so once in a while I like to just check the thickness of my journal and see how I'm doing, see if I need flatter pieces or if I can get away with adding more dimensional pieces, things like that. And when decorating your journal, you don't have to use the pieces in the kit as intended. Like this card here, I just cut it in half and cut the top and bottom off. I'm rounding the corners, adding a little distress ink, and I'm just going to use it as sort of a decorative tuck space. Here's one of those areas where I actually did remember to make a tuck space. So I'm adding glue to the top and bottom and the right hand side, and that's going to leave the left side open to tuck something into in a little bit. And then like this is the rest of that like folding piece that I cut earlier, and I'm just going to glue it on top of kind of a decorative background like this, a little bit of distress ink, and I'm just going to add this little fussy cut kind of to make it look like a portrait here. Just decorating for fun. And then I'm going to take this card, this like pretty chess piece, and this is going to be the one that goes and tucks underneath that main square that I made. So I'm just going in with a hole punch and I'm punching out 2 holes on the side. Now I didn't like the blank back, so I am going to be adding some lined paper. If you print things out with lined paper on the back, that'll save you some time, but if you want to in a pinch, you can just glue things together. And then I added a couple of eyelets for strength, and I'm taking some thin cord here, 2 pieces, fairly long, and I'm going to add one into one of the eyelets like this, just kind of threading it through. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, and I'm trying to kind of pull them so that the ends are even with one another. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're going to be taking these like 2 ends on either side, and we're going to be tying them together with one another like this. And I'm going to try to tie mine kind of in the center and make like a little bow here, just like that. And we're going to tuck it under our little tuck space, and the little bow will sort of just stick out on the side there, just like this. Might be a little tough with those eyelets, gotta push them under there. All right, and there you go. Now you've got kind of this cute little secret tuck here underneath your envelope flip. And moving on to the last part of my envelope flip here, I realized that this envelope was going to close too close to the spine and it would be hard to fit ephemera pieces into it, so I'm just going to recrease it in a different spot, just kind of moving the end of the envelope a little bit away from the spine so it's easier to tuck things into, so you can kind of see where the original crease was. And I'm just going to glue down this pretty decorative paper here so it's not plain and white, and then I'm going to glue down the flap right where I want it, just like this. And now I've got room to tuck ephemera into. All right, and decorating the little envelope on the other side here, I am going to glue down another envelope, just adding glue to the side, leaving one side open again to tuck into, just like this. And I'm going to add just a plain piece of notebook paper, nothing fancy. And I've got some of these fussy cuts that I'm going to put inside of the envelope, just some extra pieces here. And for closing the envelope, we're going to do something a little bit different here. Now, if I thought about this ahead of time, I could have glued the string under the envelope and tied it that way. But since I already tied it down, this is kind of my quick fix. I'm going to add a couple of pencil dots and poke them out with an awl. You could use a needle or anything sharp. And I'm just going to thread a piece of string through those holes like this. And that's going to give me 2 ends that I can use to tie the actual envelope shut. And there is a cord kind of running through the fussy cuts, so you know you could put your fussy cuts on top of the cord if you don't want them to be kind of like held in place. It's sort of up to you. But it's kind of a quick, simple way to tie an envelope closed in a pinch, just like this. All right, so now that we've got that done, we're going to just continue with our decorating. I'm taking another slot pocket here and some of these smaller little ephemera tags that I went over with distress ink just to kind of make them look a little more vintage, just kind of tucking them in at a slant every other one. And then going to the front of my journal, the very first page, I'm going to be taking a large piece of cheesecloth and just gluing it down kind of in a messy, like not thinking about it too much style. And I'm going in with some book plates and a couple of journal words, and then I've got some hardware here, just paper clips, bulb pins, gears, charms, buttons, things like that. And these little gears, I think we might have gotten from a craft store or maybe online. They're just flat on the back and they're made of plastic, so they're not actually heavy. So I tried to use some smaller, lighter pieces, including some of the fussy cuts from the kit, again gone over with some Distress ink just to add a little variation. And once I laid everything out and was happy, I just decided to glue it all down, and that makes kind of a cute decorative inside, cover page for my journal. Again, just double checking that things aren't too thick here since I used some like thicker buttons and things like that. And now I'm going to go in with the ephemera and some of the pockets that come with the kit, and I'm just going to glue them down sort of throughout my journal here, starting with one of these sort of like regular pockets, adding just a bunch of different ephemera pieces, some like scrap notebook pieces, and then one of those book plates and one of the journal words, and just kind of like decorating everything, finishing it up. You can use folded pieces of book pages or notebook pages or things like that, using the larger and taller bits in the back and the shorter and smaller bits in the front. And you can use some of the ephemera pieces themselves as pockets or tuck spaces, like I used this large tag here to make like a little tuck space on the side. And I'm using some of these layered pockets here just to kind of create an interesting effect. This comes with the kit and it's meant to be used this way. And again, taller pieces in the back, shorter pieces in the front. And it's okay to cut things and trim them to make them fit if you want to. Like I cut the top off one of the large tags just because it was sticking out of the journal, and again, I wasn't really going for that look this time, so I just trimmed I just trimmed things off where they needed to be trimmed. It's too early. Adding a couple of little... Oh man, I can't think of anything now. Page tabs. Adding some page tabs here and there. Taking one of the layered pockets. They come with kind of this large tag shape. It's like a tag pocket. And gluing down the pocket on the front, I went ahead and kind of mixed and matched mine, but you could use the corresponding pocket with the corresponding tag if you want to. And going in with this coffee label here, since I had the kind of the breakfast picture on the side, I thought it looked nice. One of the round book plates, and then I'm just going to glue a vintage button onto the front of that like this. And a quick and simple way to add some decoration to any page is just a paper clip and some fussy cuts, and you just clip them on to the page, either the side or the top or anywhere you'd like. You can clip them onto a tag, and it just kind of adds some instant layering and decorating, and it's pretty simple. So I'm going to go ahead on the back side of this paper clip and add a couple more fussy cuts here, just like this. Alright, and continuing to just fill up the pockets with all the little leftover ephemera pieces and book plates and scraps and things that I have. You can go in with some hardware. Again, this is going to make your journal a little bit heavier and a little bulkier. We do have some faux hardware corners and hardware pieces in our shop, so if you want to use those, they look pretty much the same, but they're just a little bit lighter and a little, bit easier to work with. And just going in, adding another wax seal and just layering some of my little stamps. And I had like this tiny envelope I decided to use. You could use this so that it actually opens. I'm just going to glue mine down decoratively here like this. Alright, and I did have one of those round pieces of ephemera left over, so I'm just going to add some glue to the bottom half. Glue it down on my page a little bit lower than center since I'm going to be tucking some things into it. Again, we want larger, taller in the back, smaller, shorter in the front. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this little label to the top. This is its own thing. It doesn't come with the kit, but I will have it linked down below if you're interested. And then I also made like a little bookmark out of one of the tags. I just used an eyelet and a ring and some chain that I've been using throughout this journal process, as well as a couple of charms on like a slightly smaller ring here. See, I just kind of layered those up like this. Now you could buy like a necklace and just add that through a tag. You don't have to make your own charm on your own chain if you don't want to, but it is kind of a cute little addition to the journal here. It kind of just sticks out the side so you can see it from the cover like this, and it's kind of a quick little fun bookmark that you can add. So I liked it, thought it was fun. Again, you don't have to buy chain if you don't want to, but if you want to, we got it at a craft store, so it is available. And then I'm taking some of these ephemera pieces that come from our Everything Ephemera pack, and I'm just going to add those into the journal, just filling up extra pockets, you know, any extra scraps that you have you can use to decorate any blank spaces. I try to use up all of the, you know, scraps and ephemera pieces that I have on hand as much as possible. I don't want to waste anything. So like these little scrap pieces we cut off earlier, I'm just stamping them and then gluing them down onto the back of a page. It doesn't really add anything besides decoration, but you know, that extra layering effect looks really nice in the journal. So go ahead and just take any scraps. If you got scrap fabric, you can make like a little cluster in the corner of the page like this, just gluing them down, layering them up like this. Nothing too fancy. I did add a little distress ink just again to make things pop from one another. And then just keep on doing that, gluing things down. If you've got any little pieces, just glue them here and there. Just have fun with it. And I had some extra book plates and some extra page tabs, so I'm just going to finish up my decorating by going in and adding those throughout the journal, just wherever I think they look nice. Now the last thing to do would be to add the clasp. Now if you watched my last video, you know that the clasp I used was not the right clasp. It like sticks out awkwardly. You need a hinge clasp. So I have gone down in the description box and linked the right kind of clasp to use. But if you have what I have, you can make it work in a pinch by just bending it. It was kind of a pain, but I got it to work. But the next part should be the same no matter which clasp you use, which is to take some chain and you're going to thread it through the holes here in like the connecting part of the clasp right here. It's got like two holes that usually you would use to secure like ribbon or something, or you know, brads to like leather or wood or something. But instead we're just going to thread some chain through it. And I'm going to pull the chain, kind of figuring out how I want it to squeeze my journal. I don't want it to kind of splay like this, so I'm going to kind of pinch it down until it looks right. And that's going to help me measure how much chain I need here. So I'm going to kind of pinch where I know I want the cutoff to be. And I'm going to use some wire cutters just to cut that chain like this. And I'm using a pretty small, thin chain here. Mine ended up being about 7 inches. Yours will really just depend on how thick your journal is. But my chain did come with some of its own little rings, so I'm going to grab some of those. I need 2 of them. 2 smaller rings that are going to fit like through the links in the chain. And then once I've got those, I'm going to go ahead and hook my chain back through the clasp like this, and gravity is going to pull the bits of chain straight, so that's going to help me figure out where I need to put my larger rings into my actual like journal cover. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a Sharpie and just make a dot on the edge of my journal cover right at the bottom of where those chains fall, just like this. And here's a little bit of a better angle for you to kind of see exactly what I'm talking about. You should just have like a little edge here on your journal cover, like the back cover, and you can just kind of mark right where those chains fall and then poke them out with an awl or a needle or something like that. And I'm going to add these larger rings. These are Tim Holtz ring fasteners, so I'm just going to go ahead and loop those through the holes I punched like this. And then onto these larger rings, I'm going to be securing those smaller rings. So I'm going to add them first to my chain link end, just like this. I'm going to shut those here, and I have to use these pretty small rings because I have pretty small chain. And then I'm going to just link the tiny chain end to my larger ring like this, and I'm using some needle nose pliers, which were extremely helpful for this process, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go ahead and link those together and close the ring like this. And this is going to hold the chain onto the book so that when I unclasp my journal, it doesn't just fall off. And there you go. So this is kind of like my take on a chain closure. I've never done this before, so this was kind of just what I thought would maybe work. I just kind of made it up out of my head, and I was surprised, but it actually holds perfectly fine. I do kind of like the look of it. I think it's a little bit more industrial and grunge and goes well with the hardware on the journal. So that is going to finish up this junk journal tutorial series. I hope that you guys liked it and got some new inspiration and maybe thought of some new things to try. You know, let me know what you guys create. If you guys join our Facebook group, you can post some pictures of your projects. I would love to see what you come up with. And don't forget to leave a comment with the fan favorite freebie. We have another one coming out at the end of the month, so leave your junk journal ideas and maybe you'll see a freebie of it. Alright, well that is going to finish the video, so thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye!